Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this September 24th, 2015 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. This, of course, is FirstAmendmentRadio.com, and I'm your host of the Investigative Journal, like I mentioned, and my show can be heard every evening on this channel from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., that's Pacific time. And also on if you go to my website, you can find out what AM stations I'm on, as well as certain selected shortwave stations for certain selected shows. Well, today I want to spend some time talking about how America is rolling out the red carpet for Pope Francis. And this is unprecedented. I've been just checking out the channels. I've been checking out the internet. I've been checking out newspapers. And he's plastered all over the place. I thought there was something called separation of church and state in this country. Well, apparently there isn't. And this rolling out of the red carpet for this Pope is a story that needs to be told. And it's a story about how America was under the thumb of the Vatican even during the American Revolution. Now, if you're a heretic, which means if you're someone that does not follow the papal pagan religion, and you don't play ball with the one world Vatican-led New World Order, you are not in the club. You're on the outside looking in. Many people will say, well, isn't this nice? Look at this man. And many Catholics have gone away from the church. Many people in this country just don't like religion at all and call themselves New Agers. Oh, they know everything about everything. Oh, yes, it's going to be a great free world. It's going to be a beautiful place if we just get rid of all the people in the world that don't believe like us. That's basically what they're saying. And everybody's a problem except the New Agers and the Vatican. Well, once you're a New Ager, you are part of the Vatican. And what I mean by that is if you look up Father Pierre de Chardin, a Jesuit priest, he was basically the architect of the New Age movement. He is one of the mentors of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and a number of others who are basically nothing more than Jesuit-trained shills for the Vatican, leading us down this path of what they call unity, freedom, a one world that's going to be so beautiful. And basically what it is, they're taking all of us right to hell. And this showing of unbelievable acceptance of this pagan organization, who is responsible for killing more people in the history of the world than any organization, is just another sign that America is nothing more than the military arm for this organization, and we've done many shows to prove that. Now, if you're on the outside looking in, and you happen to want to criticize this man or this organization, then look at how you're doing it. There are going to be a lot of people out there criticizing him, and there's some out there that are actually working for him that are doing that so they can lead you in the direction they want. Don't fall for that. The criticism of this Pope is very simple. He belongs to a satanic pagan organization, and he has partnered up with the leaders of the world to form a false sense of freedom, a false sense of unity, a false sense that we are going to basically form a better world for you, when in fact they're forming a better world for themselves. Nothing could be worse than to fall for this double talk, and that's exactly what is going on. Now, before I get into some of the pertinent reasons why, let's look at this visit, this official schedule for Pope Francis. And let's look at it, just basically, let's look at his agenda. Unbelievable. At 4 p.m. yesterday, he arrived in D.C., at Andrews Air Force Base. Who's fitting the bill here? How much money are we spending on security? Then I watched a show yesterday of how they're keeping this man safe I mean, they're spending millions of dollars in security. We are. We're paying for it. For what? You know, he can go on his merry way and say whatever he wants. Who cares? Do you think getting rid of him is going to help the problem? No. It doesn't even help to protest this guy. What really helps is to understand who they really are in your heart. Because if everybody did that, no one would be out there in the millions worshiping this guy. Now look what's going to happen Wednesday. So they do a big show yesterday on how they're protecting him. The security involved in this. I mean, they got, and then they're worried about snipers on the rooftop. You know, I mean, give me a break. Okay. Now, let's look carefully at what is happening. Now, on Wednesday, that's today. That's today. Okay, no, it's yesterday. At 9:15 a.m., there was a big, huge White House welcoming ceremony and a personal meeting with President Barack Obama. Wow. And there were thousands of people flocking around there. Then at 11 o'clock, they had a papal parade along the National Mall. A big, huge parade. Why? Then at 11:30, they had their midday prayer with all the U.S. bishops at St. Matthew's Cathedral in D.C. Now, what a farce that is. That is their midday satanic worshiping moment. And if you don't believe me, look at all the symbols and signs and all the things they do that have nothing to do with Christianity. But yet they're the most powerful organization in this country. They get a free ride on all the tax-exempt things. They got more land than you know what to do with, and they want more. Now, at 4:15, after they get done with their little satanic ceremony there, saying that they're worshiping God and Jesus is, you know, I heard this idiot Catholic priest say this, that this Pope is ushering in, he's the Pope of joy. Huh, of joy? He's the Pope, of joy. He's bringing joy to this planet right now. This flat earth, I should say. And he's bringing joy to America. This is a joyful visit to show that the world could be better. And then he went on and tells us how we are such scoundrels, how we are such ridiculous people, living in a world of wars and persecution. Well, who's creating those wars and persecution? It's the Jesuit order and the Vatican creating it. They don't want to get into that story, do they? Oh, that can't be. Oh, it can be. And if you look closely, that's exactly what they do. They create this persecution and war so they can come up and be the false saviors of it. So in the end, when they say, oh, we need to help the poor, they're going to take the land from the rich and give it not to the poor, they'll give it to themselves. And a certain few little rich people who play around with them will get some land too. And then the poor will be just like they are here. The poor here will soon be like they were in Mexico and South America, where this beloved Pope, they say, came from, Argentina. What about his involvement in the dirty wars there? Do you know the background in this guy? Is that ever brought up during these ceremonies? Hell no. This is a complete whitewash of what the truth is. And that's all this is. Now today, at 9:20 a.m., oh boy, he arrives at the Capitol building. Well, look what's at the top of that Capitol building. You think that's a freedom symbol up there? That was put up by the Vatican years ago to show you who's the boss. It's a satanic symbol of a pagan goddess up there on our building. So he's arriving at his home. Do you remember that America was first built to, our little President Washington over there, who's everybody, let's go back to the Founding Fathers. Why? They were just as bad or worse than the people we have in office today. Why would they put a free country who basically wanted freedom of religion, a Christian country, why would they build it in Washington that was owned by Father Carroll, the Carroll family, who was the first Jesuit archbishop in America? Doesn't make sense. Well, it does to them. because they're hiding all this stuff from you. And when he gives that speech to the Senate and in the House of Representatives at 10 a.m., when he gave that speech, I'm not even getting into what it is because it's all BS. Above them was Pope Innocent, whatever, the third or fourth, a big mural of the biggest Inquisition Pope in the history of the world. In a Christian, supposed Christian country, in a freedom, a hall of freedom. Look at this. When you understand the Vatican and you know that this man is sitting in the hall spewing all this double talk, there is no freedom left. You might as well just pack it up and just say, hey, let's wait for the fall to come. Because we got millions of people out there that are being buffaloed by this story, and millions of people are going to pay the price. Now, what else is this jerk doing? And I call it a jerk because anybody that can lie like this is nothing more than a jerk. All right? So what else is going to happen? What else do they have planned, or have they planned? This huge papal visit. What else is going on? Well, let me look at the time here so we don't run out. I got about 12 minutes. We got plenty of time in this first segment. So, after that BS speech in Congress, he's going to give a brief appearance on the west front of the Capitol. Well, you better. Look up there. He's got his pagan symbol right up there that they put hundreds of years ago up there. That Lincoln at the time was in office. He didn't even come out for the ceremony. He knew what was going on. And isn't it interesting, they won't even mention one thing, that after Lincoln, they killed Lincoln, after the Jesuit in the Vatican decided to kill Lincoln, and it was proven that they were involved, we broke off diplomatic relations. Now, do you think they've changed since? Hell no. Good old Ronnie Reagan gave them back their diplomatic relations in the 70s, and now we're sitting at 2015 in a huge bowl of soup that's going to get so hot that if you don't follow these guys, you're going to be burned alive like a heretic was in the Inquisition. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, they may do it more scientifically now. You know, they got microwave weaponry, they got bad food, they got bad air, they got bad everything going on, killing you one way or another. Right now, as we speak, there's more holistic doctors that have these organic cures for cancer that are being killed than I've ever seen in my life. There's up to, now I think the number's up to 15. And they're wiping out anybody who's not going to follow that BS campaign of cancer. They create the disease, then they create a solution, which is a bad solution, then they collect money, millions of dollars to cancer research, and it gets worse all the time. Why give it? Okay, so then at 11:15, he visited St. Patrick's Catholic Church in D.C. and Catholic Charities of Archdiocese of Washington. Oh boy. Now they really come together for this kind of, they're all going into this ceremony, into this pagan place. Whether you're Catholic or not, you go in there. Now, you know what it reminds me of? Everybody forgets about the Red Mass. Now, what is a Red Mass? We all know, there's a movie coming out now called The Black Mass. Just came out this week. Interesting. Well, you know, I'll tell you about the Black Mass. I've told you about them that go on all over the place, these satanic masses where they actually sacrifice living human beings. The Red Mass. This is what this reminds me of, because all these political people are going to be strolling up into that satanic church, many of them understanding really what they're doing, and buffaloing the masses. Now, listen to this, Red Mass. This came about and was authorized by our Congress after Pope John Paul II wanted this to happen. A Red Mass is on the day the Supreme Court opens in this country. Everybody flocks to a Catholic church, whether you're in Washington or any Capitol building in our country, and they celebrate a Mass to open up our Supreme Court, supposedly the day of justice. And guess who they worship? It's the patron saint who was the biggest inquisitor in the history of England. Yes. And I'm going to let you look up his name, because that'll give you, I know who he is. I've said it many times on my show. But the patron saint of that day is the biggest inquisitor, killed more Christians than most anybody in England, working for the Vatican, and they're doing a mass in his honor on the day of freedom and justice. Now, what a farce is that? But nobody cares. Look up the Red Mass and who they have deemed that to be the day of worship for, who they celebrated for. He was a Vatican patron. He was a lawyer, and you'll love. I'm going to let you look it up because maybe that'll give you some incentive to do it. So that's my question of the day. Now, after that satanic mass, they're going to go to what? Junipero Serra canonization mass. They're spending a lot of time in these halls of Satan, aren't they? Junipero Serra canonization mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Oh, here's where it gets interesting. Now they're going to worship the Queen of Heaven, who is not, the Queen of Heaven they made is a pagan goddess. Many of them depicted in our Statue of Liberty up on the Capitol building, etc., etc. You can go to the Washington Monument and see that that's a replica towards a pagan goddess, Isis. And they have that in St. Peter's Square. So they're going to go worship the pagan goddess Isis and tell us that they're worshiping Mary. And Mary is more important than Jesus. And they'll show Jesus as a little baby. And they're going to tell us that you can't get to heaven unless you pray to Mary. Well, they want you to pray to this Isis goddess, this pagan goddess. That's what they're doing at 4:15, or did at 4:15 yesterday. I didn't go and follow exactly what went on because I know what they're doing. They're telling you they're worshiping God and all this stuff when actually they're not. They're worshiping the opposite, the pagan opposite. Now Thursday comes. Well, let's see what time we have here. Thursday comes, and he goes back to the Capitol. No, wait. Oh, that was yesterday. Oh, sorry. Let's go to Friday. We didn't finish. We didn't finish Thursday. I was on Wednesday. All this stuff gets me confused. So Wednesday. Now Thursday, he's back at the Capitol. Speech. Then he gives a speech to the Senate and the House. Brief appearance. Or did I say this? Oh, yeah. Then at 4 o'clock. Oh, wait. Yeah, he went to 11:15 to St. Patrick's on Thursday. 4 p.m. he then departed for New York from the Joint Base of Andrews. He then arrives at John F. Kennedy International Airport, appropriately named for the guy they killed, and that will never be mentioned, even though if you go back into the archives, you'll see they were nailed for it. Even our representatives of Congress and Senate back then broke off any diplomatic relations with an organization that would kill our president. Oh, they're going to have an evening prayer then at 6:45. They did yesterday at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. A good place to go. That's where Cardinal Spellman used to hang out and all those pedophiles. Spellman used to be Spelly's War, right? Vietnam War. Oh, yeah. Check out some stories about some police detectives that nailed him for pedophilia. Did they close down St. Patrick's Cathedral like they did the Alamo Ministry? Did they take away all the children and put them into foster care that goes to St. Patrick's? Did they round up the families? And did they put Spellman in jail for 175 years like they did Alamo? No. Because they get away with the pedophilia, then they blame it on those who tell the truth about this organization. That's what your tax dollars are going to. And so they went to St. Patrick's and they did another satanic little ceremony. Now it gets even better. But this is going to go on a week. Millions of people worshiping this guy. All they'll have these big ceremonies. And on Friday, tomorrow, He's going to the United Nations General Assembly. Maybe he'll take his seat. There's one seat empty in the United Nations, 666. Maybe he'll take it. Probably. Who cares? Is it too obvious? Well, anybody that knows that this guy isn't the Antichrist by now, God help you. So he's going to go talk to the United Nations. He wants to get the whole world together, right? Yeah, for what? Not for any good, I'll tell you that. Now, what time we got? I'm going to run out of time here and talk to the wall. Now I got 3 minutes. So, now he's going to the United Nations. Then what's he doing? Oh, here's their multi-religious service at the 9/11 Memorial and the Museum and the World Trade Center. Wow. They're going back to the place they blew up. They had a little, you don't think the Vatican was involved in that strategy? Nobody believes the government story. Well, when you get real deep, you'll find they were involved. So they're going to go back to where they blew up the World Trade Center, because that's what they're saying. This is the new world. We can do what the hell we want. Oh, then at 4 o'clock, they're going to visit Our Lady of Queen of Angels School in East Harlem. Oh, that should be a good one. There they go with the worshipping of Isis and these pagans again. In fact, I went to Queen of Angels kindergarten when I was in Chicago, when I grew up in Catholic Church. Interesting. Oh, then a papal motorcade through Central Park. Then a big, huge satanic mass at Madison Square Garden. Oh, that's going to be a fun affair. Oh, boy. And if we only knew the truth, none of this would be taking place. If America hadn't sold out, none of this would happen. We'd be a lot better off if we hadn't sold out in the beginning. And when I mean in the beginning, I mean way, way back, even before the American Revolution. And if we really understood the history of our country, not as it's told to us by Jesuitism and the revisionists who write all this stuff, we'd understand that all of this is nothing more than a way of ushering in the New World Order to this country to take away your land, your property, your freedom and rights, and if you don't follow them, you ain't going to make it. And hell, you might not make it anyway. But it ain't over yet. You think he just left after that? Isn't that enough? No. This is going to be interesting because in the next half hour, we will talk about what he's going to be doing Saturday and Sunday here. And it's going on and on. Now he's going to a place that, to me, they've owned since the beginning of this country. So we'll get into that. And you guess where he's going on Saturday. Well, you can look up his agenda. But anyway, I find it to be completely a sham. I don't really think protesting it is even worth it anymore. I don't really think they should spend a dime on security. What's the difference? I mean, they'd just put somebody else in, and they've killed their own before. Oh, yeah. You think these popes don't go down the drain? Along with this is a system that takes no prisoners. And if you look at what happened to Pope John Paul, before John Paul II, they'll kill their own, they won't do investigations, and then they make it seem as if they're going to be saints and heroes because everybody's persecuting them. And that's where we'll pick up in the next half hour on this idea that they have been persecuted, so that's why they came here. They'd been kicked out of all these countries because of their religious beliefs. What a crock. That's not true. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour, and we're going over this papal visit and how big of a sham it really is. And if people don't really understand it, that's all I'm doing it for. Because I said it's not probably even important to protest anymore. It's important that you understand what this is all about in your own heart. If there were millions of hearts, and we didn't have to go there and wave signs or anything, but if all of us understood this information, we wouldn't be in this situation. Perhaps. Now, the real kicker is that your leaders understand this, and they want it this way. And the people that really work for them at the higher levels want it this way, and they want to buffalo you. Now, we're going to get into, I'm going to do this quickly. He's going to be in Philadelphia on Saturday, and he goes through some satanic masses again. He goes to Independence Hall. He's got to visit his old buddy Ben Franklin, who worked with them way back in the Revolution. Yeah, we don't get that story, do we? He's one of their boys, just like most of the Founding Fathers were. And they're going to be doing, then Sunday, he goes to another satanic ceremony somewhere, St. Martin's Chapel. He visits some correctional facility, a papal mass for World Meeting of Families, unreal. And he's going to be worshipped and praised all over the place, and you're not going to hear one bad word or any truth about who he really is and who this organization really is. However, if you go back to my other shows, you will see that the White House is connected with underground facility right to Georgetown University. It's very near, and they got this underground little passageway. And I said to myself years ago, well, hell, if they're bugging us, I mean, you don't think they're listening to any conversation they want, and you think that the Fourth Amendment protects you anymore, forget about it. So I said, if they can bug us, we can bug them. So I found a way to put a little bug into into certain areas of the White House and things, so I can listen to their conversations that go on prior to, what they tell us in the public. Now, if I played that, they'd arrest me on the spot. So, in an effort to get out the truth, I just kind of paraphrase what they say. That way, they can never really prove if I did it or not. And that way I'm not going to go to jail. Because, you see, they can bug me and get away with it, or bug you if you're not in their club and get away with it. But if we try to do the same thing to them, we're going to jail. Because, you see, they're above the law. Whatever law, or basically what they'll do is they'll use the law for their benefit in this case. They'll say it's an invasion of privacy, they had national security things going on, and you are going to be called a traitor or treasonous or whatever they'll do. But when they bug you, hey, that's okay, because they need to know that for national security. You see, they got you by the you-know-what. You're not in their club. But anyway, I did happen to bug the place where Obama and this man I call, anybody that comes in a white dress, I'm always weary of. I wonder what the heck's going on. In this day and age, you can wear pants if you're a man. I don't know, he's not Scottish. He's not wearing a kilt. He's wearing a dress, and he calls himself the Vicar of Christ. Now, what worse? It makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, I'm going to paraphrase. They had a little 5-minute meeting before, and they talk a lot more in places where I couldn't get this information. But I'm going to paraphrase a few minutes of what they said right before. Remember I said he was speaking, he met with Obama, then he came out and spoke on the Capitol or somewhere? Well, this is what they said prior to that. First of all, he walked in this little room, and everybody was ushered out except Obama and him. And at that particular juncture, they admired one another, from what I gather from their voices. Because Obama said something like, "Oh, you look so pretty today." And then the Pope said something like, "I've always liked your stature. I've always admired you from, afar." And then I could hear some kind of kissing and hugging and all that stuff. Well, okay. All right. Then there were words such as, "Hey, did you line up anything for me here?" Obama said, "Of course." And then he said, "Well, you sure this is secure? Can anybody hear us?" And he said, "Of course this is. This is one of the few times I'm sure no one's hearing us. Because, if they did, we'd be in big trouble." So apparently they were setting up some date night with some little boys or girls. I don't know. And after that was over, the Pope said something like to Obama, "Hey, you've been doing a great job of BSing the public. Just keep it up. Keep this going. We think we got them now. And pretty soon we will have what we want here. You will be well paid as you have been. And don't worry, this has been probably," and I'm paraphrasing because he's speaking a bit, it's like whispering or something. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he realized I had a bug in there. Well, anyway, he said something like, "You will be well taken care of because I think you have done the ultimate job. You're at a pivotal point here. You're at the point where we have now got total control. And you've been doing an excellent job of buffaloing the people." And Obama said something I could hear him say, "Oh, thank you." And then I heard him kissing again, and maybe he was kissing his ring. And he says, "I've worshipped you. I will worship you forever and ever into the throngs of our leaders." I remember throngs of our leaders. I think he got a little tongue-tied. What he was really saying was he loves worshiping Satan, just like the Pope. And they went on, and he went on to say that we've got the stage set. There'll be there's going to be no bad press. Don't worry about it. We've got control of the media, so none of the truth is going to get out about you. They didn't say specifically. Then he said, "Don't worry. There's not going to be too many religious fanatics here who know the truth about you, and they'll be silenced too. We've put away a number of the big boys." And he said, one I'm talking about. Friend, he used to do his ministry in Clinton's territory. We've got him well put away for a long time, even though he's telling the truth. So there won't be many people like them. Oh, there's going to be a few out there. But don't worry, we've got their names and numbers. And of course, and this is going on now. This is a fun little conversation. And I'm going, God, I wish I could play it. Then he says something like, and we have people out there who are actually still infiltrating the truth movements, and really some of them will talk against you, but you know who they are. But they're on your side, because we need to do that, just like, it was done in the French Revolution. And then the Pope said something like, boy, you're getting pretty scholarly. I don't know what he called him. B.O. He didn't say that, but I made that up. So then they exchanged some other things, about their trip and how they're going to be. Don't worry, you're going to be exalted as the greatest man in the world. We've got it all set. This is our final straw. America will follow suit. We got millions here. I've done my job. And then they went on their way. So what do you learn from that conversation? The truth. Will they tell you that in their meeting when they talk public? Heck no. You're going to hear their story. Well, I just wanted you to hear what they say behind the scenes. So, we know they're up to no good. And we know they've pretty much got everything sewed up. It's an abomination to see a newspaper organization like what we have in this country. It's a sham. It's a joke. Hollywood has basically become reality. But is this the first time the Pope's ever been? Who else has met with the Pope? What other presidents? There's more in the last 20 years I've ever seen. But let's look at the history of this. It's interesting that the first meeting was in 1919 with Woodrow Wilson. That was Pope Benedict XV. That was the first meeting of an incumbent president of the United States and a reigning pope. Now, it's interesting there's none around the time of Lincoln or during that or before that, because too many people understood who they were back then. And they had to get rid of that. So by 1919, they got one of their boys, Woodrow Wilson, in there. And he met in Vatican City with Pope Benedict XV. But another 40 years went on before their next boy, Dwight Eisenhower, met with Pope John the 23rd, 1959. Now, the story of Ike is interesting, and if you check out a couple names, Father Edmund Walsh, a Jesuit priest, he was instrumental in getting Ike his position because he played the patsy, he played the guy they needed in World War II, even though he was not qualified for the position. And Ike was their boy. And you got to go read about Father Edmund Walsh. You can get it on my website. He's even you can go to Ike's website, and he's got a page when he died. And when you call Georgetown, say, "Oh, he was just a teacher." Yeah. Go to some of my stories to see who he really was. A spy. This guy was in more stuff into Iraq, into Stalin. Oh, it's an amazing story. And Ike was their boy. So they met. John the 23rd met with Ike on the 1959. Now you know that Kennedy met with them in July 2nd, 1963 in Vatican City, Pope Paul VI. It was the only meeting of a Roman Catholic U.S. president and a reigning pope, and they had to get rid of him because he backstabbed them, really. Kennedy knew the truth. He figured he could change things from the inside out, get in, but he was gone. And you know who took over? Because on October 4th, 1965, in New York City now, Pope Paul VI comes to talk to Lyndon Baines Johnson. That was the first visit ever to the United States by a reigning pope. And guess who he met with? Oh, he met with their boy, Lyndon, who reversed what Kennedy wanted to do in Vietnam so they could kill all the Buddhists. And then in 1967, Lyndon goes to Vatican City and meets with Pope Paul. Then on March 2nd, now it's getting to be, we got our guys in office all the time now, so we're coming here, you're coming there. In 67, well, they met with Johnson in 67. In 69, on March 2nd, Nixon goes to Vatican City and meets with Pope Paul VI. On September 29, 1970, Nixon goes to Vatican City again. Now they're getting instructions here. They're not good at the game as these guys are today, but they're getting their instructions. And then, guess what? On June 3rd, 1975, Gerald Ford goes to the Vatican City to meet with Paul VI. Now, on October 6, 1979, now we all talk about Reagan. Pope John Paul II visits the White House. First visit to the White House. Remember, in 65 was the first visit to the United States. Now, in 79, Carter meets John Paul II at the White House. So now they're getting their game together. On June 21, 1980, Carter goes to the Vatican. You got to go here, you got to play, go there, you go here, we'll meet each other. And it's interesting, they always meet. The first pictures that started coming out, they always meet. They take a picture, the Pope sitting on one side, the President on the other, and above them is St. Ignatius Loyola, the Jesuit henchman who started the killing, who ran the Jesuit order to wipe out heretics during the Inquisition, during the Protestant Reformation. But they sit under him because of that. They want to tell you, your eyes got to see it, though. They really want to tell you. That's my point. That's why they give you all these signs and symbols. Because they really, really do want to tell you. But they want to make sure, that you're getting, they want to know how well read you are. And when they realize that most Americans don't know anything, don't know nothing, man, they can get away with more and more and more. So, Carter meets in the Vatican in 80. Now this is getting to be a yearly adventure here. On June 7th, 1982, Reagan goes to Vatican City and meets with John Paul II. Then in 1984, they meet in Fairbanks, Alaska. Ronald Reagan and Paul. And he was returning to the United States from a visit to China while Pope John Paul was making a stopover on his way to South Korea, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands. What the heck is this church? Is this a church or a religious or a political organization? It's a political organization. Hiding behind Christ and hiding behind freedom. The Vatican, basically, they cuddle up with dictators, anybody that will, that's why they have 200 concordats with everything under the sun. Because they can create these wars, they can create all this stuff if they get control. Now, Reagan meets, and boy, listen to this. This is getting interesting because on June 6th in 87, he goes to Vatican City. Then on September 10th, 87, they meet in Miami, Florida. They're good buddies now. And Reagan, again, we know, ushered in the first signing of diplomatic relations, again, forgetting that they killed President Lincoln. Somehow they all forgot about that now. Didn't happen. Okay. So then we get our good boy George Bush in, our George H. Bush. And he meets in Vatican City with Pope John Paul II. In 1991, again, he goes to Vatican City and meets with John Paul II. Well, this is becoming a interesting affair because, boy, let's go through Clinton. On August 12, 1983, 1993, and 94, 95, 99, they meet in Denver, Vatican City, Newark, New Jersey, St. Louis, Missouri. And in 93, they addressed thousands of young students at the World Youth Day. Well, they're checking out some of their, what. So, George W. gets in, continues in 2001. He goes to Castel Gandolfo, that's the Pope's little hiatus place, in Italy, and meets with John Paul II. Then he goes to Vatican City in 2002, Vatican City in 2004. 2007, he meets with Benedict. Oh, wait, in 2004, he gave the Medal of Freedom to John Paul II. Isn't that a farce? John Paul II was a cyanide salesman in Poland. You want to hear his history? I remember when I first went to Italy, Italians understood. They said, you look like the Pope. You're Polish, aren't you? I said, yeah, I'm full-blood Polish. He said, I know why you're here, Greg. I said, why? He said, oh, you're here, one of the illegitimate sons of the Pope, here to collect your money. They know what was going on. Now, on April 15th and April 16th, Bush again meets with Benedict, 2007, 2008. Meets in 2008 again in June in Vatican City with Benedict. And we're coming up to 2009. Let's see Obama's little thing. He met in Vatican City 2009 with Benedict. He met with Francis in 2014. And again now, we have September 22nd, 23rd, and whatever now, Barack Obama meets again. And Francis comes here for his ultimate visit. And boy, haven't we been a country that has kind of favored this organization a little bit compared to other religious groups? It's almost as if they're one and the same. Isn't they're one and the same is because the Vatican and the Jesuits were quite instrumental in creating this country. Unbeknownst to you, because your history books will never tell you, and most people won't do the research, and they'll think what I'm saying is crazy, but anyway, it's not. The Founding Fathers had a hidden agenda along with the Vatican to create this country built on a plateau of freedom, which was going to be false, and freedom of religion, which was going to be the way they could get the Roman Catholic Church into this country, because at the time, all these revolutions were going on in France, and the Vatican was instigating the Jesuits instigating all this civil strife all over Europe, and that's why the Jesuits were kicked out of more than 80 countries. Now, they'll claim they were kicked out, including Japan. They had to get even with them. Including Japan. They'll claim they were kicked out because of their religious beliefs. Now, that's nonsense. They were kicked out because they wanted to get influence and overthrow these governments and control it for the Pope. That's why the Tsar in Russia was taken over. And millions of people were killed. I mean, millions slaughtered Orthodox Christians. So they needed a way to get their power, to get a working base, and so they created this country, which was based on freedom of religion. So basically, with that in mind, they could start here, and they did with one archdiocese. That's where our capital's built on, and you know how it's grown since then. And really their plan was to use freedom to create fascism, or maybe even a communistic structure, which they're good at doing. And secondly, to allow them to do their bidding here under the guise of freedom of religion. But as you see, they've infiltrated churches. They've taken down good Christian churches like Tony Lamo Ministry and others. And the real reason is so that they could control and get everyone to worship under them, whether it be openly or behind the scenes. That's why Billy Graham was one of their boys, and all these other people that you think were, bringing on Christianity. It's not that way. And that was their plan from the beginning. It was a hidden agenda, and all of these people like Franklin and Washington and all these people understood it, didn't do it for the common good. They finally figured out, hey, we could really buffalo people if we do it this way. And that's why people today say the Constitution means nothing. That's why people today will see that their churches have been infiltrated by Jesuits, and that this creation of ecumenism is nothing more than a ploy to get everybody to worship and to be controlled by the Pope and the governments that he works with, i.e. ours, in most... you could say Cuba, let's just the ones around us, Cuba, Mexico, Canada, the United States, all in his pocket, as well as countries over in the Middle East. You'll see how they operate and control both sides of most every conflict. Now, you want to go and stand up there and worship this Pope? Go right ahead. before you do it, I would recommend that you look at the other side of the story. And when you look at the other side of the story and the facts start mounting, don't quit. Don't cower away. Understand what your country and what this man and this organization is really all about. And then you will see that by understanding, that's all you really need to do. Because the question becomes, they are here to control your mind, body, and soul to as many people as they can in any way they can. And the only way that you can stop it is by understanding really the truth. And by looking and finding that your Creator, your God, in Christianity through the Bible tells you this. And you don't need him, the Pope. You don't need the Pope to worship Jesus or God. That's all laid out for you in the Bible. You can have a relationship personally. That's what they don't want. And they'll use any means to stop it. Because if that's the case, they're not going to collect all the money. They're not going to have the power anymore. Well, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of his visit. See you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.